So we're going to be watching the Buy Now Pay Later trap explained by Grant Rudeau.
Why is paying for so addictive?
I literally once financed a bottle of body wash.
You know what? I'm gonna afterpay this. It's gonna make me feel less guilty to pay it in 4 installments of $81 or whatever.
That's like having a black American Express to me. I can use it anywhere, anytime I get ready.
I'm using Klarna to pay for these Chris Brown tickets.
Look at this chart right here. This shows the total non-housing consumer debt in America over the last 10 years. And in 2024, Americans collectively owe more than $5 trillion,
$5 trillion.
which is enough to pay for
$5 trillion. That is insane. That is way too much. What the fuck? How much is the US debt? But $5 trillion. You can't even fathom that much amount of money. That is way too much money. I mean, if it's in a good debt where like you're getting money back, yeah. But if it's like, I don't fucking know, car payment or like a mortgage or something like that, I don't know what to tell you.
every NFL, NBA, and MLB team 10 times over. And to make matters worse, we are constantly surrounded by psychological tricks and hidden fees to drive us further and further into debt. The worst of these tricks, the buy now, pay later programs that have been designed to take advantage of young adults.
So when you buy a $100 pair of shoes and you only have to pay $25 that day, and then the pair of shoes show up at my apartment 3 days later, the shoes are $25. Why do I care if in 2 months I have to pay another $25? I don't know me 2 months from now. She can deal with that.
Buy now, pay later.
She's fucking alright. I can see why $5 trillion is actually a thing now. If people think like that, yes, you're gonna end up being in debt. Only $25. No, it's $100 over like 4 months. It's like paying for a monthly subscription. Like, you don't recognize it, but like it adds up.
There is a short-term financing option that is offered by companies like Affirm, Klarna, or Afterpay. You'll typically see these options pop up on e-commerce stores, offering you the ability to buy what you want today while deferring your payment over a certain number of installments. So if you're looking to buy a new suitcase for a trip you have coming up and it's going to cost you $300, instead of paying that all today, you could buy the suitcase today and then split the $300 across 4 equal interest-free payments. And you might think, great, interest free. I can just sign up for these payments and then worry about paying it sometime later down the road. But it's not quite that simple. These buy now, pay later programs aren't necessarily groundbreaking financial technology. In fact, buy now, pay later programs are kind of a newer, modernized version of the old school layaway programs that you would see at stores like Kmart and Sears. These layaway programs allowed you to place a deposit on an item like a dishwasher, for example. And then the store would reserve that dishwasher for you to collect once you had paid off the dishwasher through their installment plan. But these layaway programs kind of fell off throughout much of the mid 20th century, mainly due to the introduction of credit cards and revolving lines of credit. Instead of using a layaway program and waiting to collect their item, people could just swipe a credit card, get their item today, and then worry about paying off that over the next couple months or years. The only problem is that a credit card will incur interest. People realize that if they didn't pay their credit card down on time, they would end up owing more than they initially spent on the item. So along came the modern marvel that is buy now, pay later.
Yeah, what do you guys think about credit cards? If I start thinking about it, credit cards are very, very useful. Like, for me in my life, they have come in handy multiple times. I always pay them off on time, thankfully. But there's people out there that max out their credit card and then just pretty much kill their credit score and then open a new credit card to pay out the previous credit card. So that makes no sense. And now you're pretty much still in debt because that means that now you have interest to pay on the other card. But there's some people out there that should not have a credit card at all. And that pretty much should be banned, in my opinion, until you're more financially literate to like actually be responsible to take care of a credit card.
Which gave you the best of both worlds. Get your product today, pay it off over a longer period of time, all while doing it interest-free. And that idea began hooking people in, because buy now, pay later has seen some explosive growth over the last 5 years, going from $2 billion in transaction volume in 2019 to $24.2 billion in 2021, and it's projected to reach as high as $122 billion in 2025. But this explosion wasn't just happening in a vacuum. It's actually part of 3 major cultural shifts that we've been seeing. First is the financialization of everything, meaning we've moved from a completely cash-based society to a society in which we look at even a $5 coffee as an opportunity to finance the transaction. Second, we have the rise of social media driven consumption. As influencers showcase luxury lifestyle and products, buy now, pay later allows the average consumer the ability to experience those same things without actually incurring the cost today. And third, we have the post-pandemic spending boom, which has consumers using buy now, pay later as a form of revenge spending or buying things they feel like they missed out on during the pandemic. Combine all of that with a declining financial literacy among most young adults, and you have the perfect storm to to make buy now, pay later explode as a new mentality. But why is this even a problem? If they're not charging interest, how can they actually be taking advantage of me as a consumer? To answer that question, we first need to look at the differences between buy now, pay later programs and traditional credit cards. Because on the outside, they're basically the same thing. Both financial devices allow you to buy something today that you might not necessarily be able to afford or be willing to put cash down today for. But a credit card usually involves some sort of approval process, application, review, and a credit report hit. Meanwhile, buy now, pay later programs offer an almost instantaneous approval for your purchase in the moment. Additionally, as we discussed, credit cards can accrue interest if not paid off by the end of the month. And that rate can be at crazy high rates, usually around 19 to 23%. On top of that, if you're late with your payment or you miss a payment, credit card companies can also add on late payment fees that just end up waterfalling you into insane amounts of credit card debt off of fairly simple purchases to begin with. And on the other hand, buy now, pay later offers 0% interest, which sounds great, but that all depends on if you actually pay your payments on time. If you don't, you'll be subject to late payment fees that can range anywhere from $2 to $15 per payment and going all the way up to 25% of the total value of the purchase you made initially. And with all that said, buy now, pay later still might sound like a perfectly good alternative to credit cards, which is exactly what they want you to think. Because buy now, pay later programs weren't necessarily designed to help the consumer like you or me. They were designed for stores and brands that want to sell more through their website or in their stores. After all, that's why brands are willing to pay 2 to 3% more for their transaction fees to use a buy now, pay later program versus a traditional credit card processor. To give you an example, let's look at a $100 purchase. If you bought a $100 item using a normal credit card on their site, the brand was typically going to incur about a $2.50 charge to process that payment. And on the other hand, if you were to use a buy now, pay later program, that transaction fee that the brand has to pay goes from $2.50 to about $5. But the merchant fees are just the beginning when it comes to buy now, pay later. So let's look at how these companies actually make money beyond just charging the brand that hosts them on their website. First, like we just discussed, they're going to collect that merchant fee, which is anywhere from 4 to 6% of the transaction price. Second, they profit from late fees, like we talked about earlier, which has turned out to be a pretty substantial revenue source for companies like Affirm and Klarna, because 1 in every 3 users of these buy now, pay later programs actually ends up missing a payment at least once. And third, every purchase that is made reveals something about you or your shopping habits, and these companies have realized that that is very valuable information for other brands. So they actually harvest a lot of the data from your checkout pages and then sell it to other brands that can then use it in their marketing or in their ad targeting. And finally, they benefit from the sheer volume of loans being opened up by packaging yours and everybody else's debt together and selling it to larger financial institutions. They can make money even when you pay on time. In other words, they've created a system where they win no matter what happens to you financially. So now let's look at buying an iPhone for $1,000. When you reach the checkout page, you have 3 options. Number 1, pay the full $1,000 up front. This is the simplest, cleanest, and easiest way to get out of the checkout scotch-free. Option 2, you could use a credit card with the typical 22% APR to purchase the phone. And if you only made the minimum payments, you would end up paying about $1,480 over the course of 5 years, with $480 of that being the interest alone. And option number
$1,000 to $1,500 over 5 years. But I'm pretty sure you can wait a few weeks to work for you to be able to get the new iPhone that you want. You're pretty much almost paying for 2 phones if you wait over 5 years. So I would just wait for me to be able to afford the new iPhone without having the fucking interest. But there's some people out there that will take the other way and pay it with a credit card over 5 years. Don't know why you would do that, but I guess that's them. Let's see the other option.
3 is you could use Afterpay's 4-payment installment plan where you pay $250 today and then $250 every 2 weeks until the plan is paid off. Which sounds like the best deal to you? You see, brands have mastered psychological manipulation throughout their website, but specifically on the last hurdle, which is the checkout page. And they do this through 4 key tricks. First, they exploit what psychologists call the pain of paying. By splitting the cost over a longer period of time, your brain actually registers less financial pain than paying the full amount up front. Second, they trigger what is called the temporal discounting, which is our tendency to value immediate rewards more than future benefits, or otherwise known as instant gratification. Pay just $25 today and it's yours sounds a lot better than waiting and saving up for it. Third, they will create artificial urgency urgency by simulating limited time offers in the checkout page. And finally, they use colors and shapes to direct your eye exactly where they want you to be looking. Have you ever noticed that the buy now, pay later button is often highlighted in a brighter color, and it's sometimes even pre-selected when you reach the checkout page? These aren't accidents. These are specific design decisions to short circuit your brain to making a financial decision more on an impulse than with rational thinking. Instead of thinking about a $100 purchase rationally and over a longer period of time, they'd rather have you just click the pay $25 now and worry about it later on. And again, this isn't necessarily a bad deal because people are always looking for interest-free ways of purchasing things so that their money can go and earn them more money while they're paying off the other thing that they purchased. But to do so requires some financial education or experience. And sadly, most Americans are completely undereducated when it comes to financial literacy. So the instant gratification syndrome kicks in and they buy practically everything with buy now, pay later, with no real concern that they will in fact have to pay that off at some point. All they're worried about is the price that they will pay today, which is exactly how you end up with this.
I've done groceries, I've done all kinds of crap on Affirm and Klarna, but it adds up and then you are in a chokehold. And in some ways, it is worse than having credit card payments. It's crazy.
Because buy now, pay later is so easy to do, people are starting to use it on more and more occasions where it's really not meant to be used. Instead of just using it on a big purchase like a new fridge or a TV, they're starting to use it on smaller things and truly financing items that have no business being financed. A crazy story that we recently saw is that Klarna is now on DoorDash, which allows you to finance your $15 burrito over 4 payments of $375 instead of paying the full $15 up front. Again,
if you are financing DoorDash for you to make a payment of $15, first of all, it's not gonna be $15. You're still gonna have to pay for the ride. So it's gonna be pretty much more. So $15, all right, 4 payments, all right. What, $3? You paid $3 over, I don't know, 4 months. It's not gonna seem like a lot, but then again, the fee to have someone bring it to you, and also if you're even tipping, then that makes no fucking sense. That would throw away the whole plan. This really shouldn't exist, but then again, if you think about it, it is a very, very smart business move, because let's say you have 100,000 people that do this, at least one of them is gonna have a late payment. So you're making money out of pretty much just being like the middle guy of a bank that is just giving out loans to like small purchases like $5. So you're able to afford it. You're making money out of someone being irresponsible, and they can't do nothing about it because it is a late fee. And most likely the reason that they're doing that plan is because they can't pay in the first place. That's why they're doing it. Like groceries, all right, that makes sense, but it is a trap.
Not a necessarily terrible thing when looked at in a vacuum, but when you expand this to consider that someone who's financing a burrito is also probably financing a lot of other things, that's when the real problem starts to arise. Bad spending habits like this lead to what we call loan stacking, pretty much what it sounds like, taking out loan after loan after loan and stacking them on top of each other. And because buy now, pay later programs make it so easy to do so, most consumers don't even realize how much debt they're actually accruing. In fact, in 2022, 63% of buy now, pay later borrowers had more than one loan going at one time. And this is where it gets really scary. Because these programs are designed to offer credit with little to no approval process, it's almost like they're targeting people that don't know how to manage their money. All they see is, oh, I can buy this $1,000 thing for $250 today, and they just click buy. When in reality, over 69% of buy now, pay later users are already in debt on another credit card. And 28% of buy now, pay later borrowers are between the ages of 18 and 24 years old.
Yeah, dude, they're doing it to people that don't have money. It makes sense why they're doing it. It's not to help them, it's just to get money out of them. Just get more money out of them and fuck them over more. It's a trap, but I don't think they notice it. Then again, it does come in useful to certain extents, because if you know that you can pay it off, alright, it makes sense for you to do it. This camera that I bought, the one that I'm using right now, this camera cost me like a lot of money. I was gonna do it in the payments of like 6 months, and I was able to pay it off in 2 months. So I saved that interest of 4 months. It made sense because I was able to pay it off because I was concentrated on paying this thing off. If you're doing multiple things, those things adds up. Like $5 payment, alright, if you have 30 $5 payments, it's a big thing.
People don't even understand the concept of how a credit card works, and by giving them this buy now, pay later option, it's almost like they have this unlimited stream of money that never needs to actually be paid off. Again, don't get me wrong, there are definitely some advantages to the system if you know how to play it, but the vast majority of people using the system are not taking advantage of it. They are just getting taken advantage of. So what do you do? As a consumer, should I completely stay away from buy now, pay later, or are there some circumstances where it makes sense? And to answer that question, the most important piece of advice I can give you is to never spend more than you currently have, whether that be through a credit card or a buy now, pay later option. If you don't have the cash in your bank, don't spend it. And that is by far the easiest way that you can keep yourself out of credit card debt. And if you feel confident in your financial abilities, feel free to use a credit card or a buy now, pay later option to earn more interest on your cash while it's sitting in your account versus just spending it immediately. But if you don't feel confident about this, treat your credit cards in a buy now, pay later program as if it's hooked directly up to your checking account. If you spend $100, that's $100 coming directly out of your account. Another tip I have is to avoid stacking these loans, because that is where things can get very messy very quickly. If you start financing weekly expenses like gas, groceries, or that Friday night Chipotle bowl, it becomes a slippery slope, because it is 100 times easier to get into debt than it is to get out of debt. But there you have it, the truth about buy now, pay later. These companies spend millions of dollars on psychological research to get you to spend more than you can actually afford. But now you know a little bit more about how to protect yourself.
If you think about it, the majority of their audience he saw in the video was 18 to 25. If you think about it, what is the majority of people that are 18 to 25 doing? They're going to school. So their target audience is pretty much targeting people with no money. So these guys are fucking evil. But yeah, man, amazing video. I liked it, and I feel bad for those people that are in that, because financing a coffee, that's so dumb.